Hello and welcome to Take the Brakes Off, the Y Factor edition. It's time now to introduce myself. My name is Anastasia Zachary. I am the founder and the CEO of Take the Brakes Off. I wanted to take this moment and to explain to you why Take the Brakes Off is in existence and what is our purpose. Let's start off with, it started in the third grade. In the third grade, I experienced trouble with reading and math. Before that, it was easy, nothing to it. But as soon as I hit the third grade, challenges really set in for me. Then I quickly moved into phase 2. I like to call this phase the never gonna make it phase. One day during the third grade, my third grade teacher decided to tell me something that affected me the rest of my life. I asked her simply, I said, "Teacher, can I please go to the restroom?" And she said, "No, not right now." And so I waited, and you know, being a child, I waited as long as I could. And I said, "I really have to go." And so she lined the class up, and for some reason, I guess she was having a bad day. And I asked her again, I said, "Could I go in front of everybody else?" And she said no. And I guess at this point, I kind of got on her nerves, and she grabbed my arm and she said, "You know what? You're really getting on my nerves, and you know what? You can't read, and you can't do math, and you'll never be able to go to college." Imagine a 10-year-old hearing that they'll never be able to go to college. Devastating. So like any other youth, I surely went home and I told my parents, and my parents, of course, were outraged, just like you would be outraged. And they had a meeting with the school, and all things were settled, and I was told that everything was going to go back to normal. But truth be told, every day in class after that were the hardest days of my educational career. I was treated differently. I wasn't given the same opportunities in the classroom, and so that led to me falling further and further behind. Shortly following this incident, I was told that my parents would have a thing called an ARD. And in this ARD, they had a meeting and gave the school permission to test me to see what was wrong with my ability to learn. And I took the test, and it said that I scored below my grade level. And so then they gave me more tests and more tests. And finally, my parents had what I like to call is the talk. They sat me down and they said, we really want to have a serious conversation with you, Anastasia. And they said, "We're going to put you in a special classroom." And they said, and it's no special than any other classroom, but this is a classroom where you can get help. Now, immediately, I knew what that meant. That meant I was going to be placed in special education. Dun, 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 right? Who wants to go through that? Especially if you've been going through school with all of your friends and now you're going to be separated completely. It was devastating. That led to the bathtub scene for me. The day before school started back, I remember sitting in the bathtub and I remember crying out to God, asking, "Why did you leave me? Why did you let this happen to me?" And nothing. He said, nothing. At the first time in my life, I felt alone. I felt as if nobody loved me. Everybody gave up on me. And I was too young to say the teacher just didn't like me. She refused to teach me. And all I knew was it hurt. So I had my first day in the special education classroom. I walked in the classroom and there are kids who are sloppy, kids who are in wheelchairs. It was a very overwhelming situation for a 10-year-old to be in. But yet, being who I was, I pressed my way through. My teacher at the time, she was an amazing woman because right away she noticed that I didn't belong in that classroom. She would give me work and I would finish it. She would give me something else on a higher level. I didn't quite understand it. She would teach me a strategy and I would understand it. And then I would finish it. And she finally said, "Sweetheart, you don't belong in this classroom. There's nothing special about you. And so naturally, she called up my mother, and I was excited. I was like, yeah, I'm finally going to get out of this classroom. And they recommended that I be tested again. And so they sent me to a psychiatrist. I remember I went into this nice office, and he tested me again to see if I had any other serious mental issues or why they would put me in this special education classroom. And his findings were, I don't have a name for what she has because I don't know quite what her problem is. I just think she lacks focus. I think that's her problem with learning. She can't focus. Now, before this time, he's never met me. The test was really quick. It really, in my opinion, at a young age, it wasn't enough to diagnose me with anything. So the best he can come up with was, I don't know, but we need to put her on medicine. Luckily, my mother refused. I stayed in the special education classroom all the way through elementary, knowing that I didn't belong. But what my teacher did for me was she taught me on a regular grade level. And so it didn't stop my growth. And when I wasn't at school, my mother and my father took time out to teach me different strategies so that I would never fall behind. Listen, strategies were the key to what opened the doors to my success. Moving on, I went into middle school. My mother told me, you have an umbrella. And this umbrella, no matter if you do bad or good, you're going to pass. And so I was like, well, no, I still want to learn because I don't belong here. And so I still put all my effort for it. I used every strategy known to man that was taught to me. I used it. And not only did I use it, I mastered it. And so then fast forward to high school, they moved me out of the special education classes and said, you're free to be in the general population. Again, another traumatizing experience because I was used to the umbrella, of course, and now I'm all on my own using the same strategies that I learned from elementary through middle school, plus what the tutoring I had from my mother and my father. Listen, once again, stepped into a devastating situation, but I understand that I am more than a conqueror. While the background of my teacher, my third grade teacher, telling me that I'll never go to college. Fast forward to my senior year, I apply to college. I'm making the grade. Okay? I apply to college. Not only do I apply, but I get into college. Not only do I get into college, but I apply for every tutorer for every class. I was at every study hall. I studied Monday through Sunday to make sure that I could prove my third grade teacher wrong. Listen, I could not have done this without God on my side. But with him, I was able to get my bachelor's and my master's. And I graduated summa cum laude. Yes, this little girl who was put in special education classroom, who was told that she'll never be able to read nor do math or get into college, graduated at the top of her class both times. Fast forward, I was in Bible study one night, and God spoke so clear to me at Bondage Breaking Ministries. He said, I want you to start your own tutoring company. And I paused and I said, well, what makes me qualified? Because up until now, I've been ashamed of my reason why I do what I do. And I never thought that I would be in front of a camera right now talking to you, explaining to you why Take the Brakes Off is here. Then I went back to my home church, and the pastor was preaching a sermon, and God spoke to me again. He said, start the business in 2018, and I want you to use the same strategies that you learned from elementary through high school all the way through college. Plus, now that you're a teacher, I want you to take what you now know and what you knew back then to give to the kids that are in your position right now. This is why Take the Brakes Off is in existence, because I don't want another little girl or another little boy or another young man in high school or college to feel what I felt. I want them to understand that there are strategies and there is more than one way to get an education. There is more than one way to learn a concept, and it all depends on your personality, what you gravitate to. And I understand this because I've been through it. I've gone through the troubled storms, and I've been through the rain. I've went through the lowest valleys, and I have been to the mountaintop. And I am here to help you take the brakes off of your education. So now that you are a client, we welcome you to Take the Brakes Off family, but we want you to understand where we are coming from when we say that we want to help you take the brakes off of your education. I hope the why factor of today has helped you in some way to motivate you. Maybe you can identify with it, maybe you can't yet, but at least you have a better understanding of why you were sent here. Welcome, family. Thank you. God bless. This video has been brought to you by I Am 360, and one of their slogans is "Caution, I'm a Christian." Thank you so much.